it sucks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, click the like button down below. And with that said, I'm out, guys. See ya. Just kidding, don't get butthurt. That's not the review. So, this past weekend, Nintendo came out with a brand new Arms TestPunch, letting us play the game. It's the beta basically, except they don't do it like Xbox and PlayStation. They've got these set hours that you can play, and when you go ahead and play for these set hours, you can play for around an hour, actually a bit over an hour, since you can actually play it a couple minutes prior to the time that they give you. Basically the same way they went about it with the test fire for Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2. So, we got to play party mode, where basically you get to play a bunch of different match types on a bunch of different stages, or actually just 3 stages. But we got to play one-on-one fights, 2-on-2 fights, so tag team, 4-way matches, 3-way matches, and then you've also got the volleyball matches or game mode, where we got to play one-on-one volleyball matches as well as 2-on-2 volleyball matches. And out of all those, at least in my opinion, the best ones were the one-on-one matches. That's what I look forward to the most, with the one I look forward to the least being the tag team matches. Those were a bit too chaotic. You've got 4 people in there, and not only that, but you're tied up to your opponent. You can't go too far without your opponent. Your opponent can't be at the other end of the map, or at the other end of the stage, and you being at the opposite end completely. So, you're tied up, you gotta be close to each other. And with all these people close to each other because the other team also is tied up, oftentimes you get confused, especially if people pick the same characters. You're like, am I even hitting, the opponent here, or am I trying to hit, my partner here? It gets a bit confusing and chaotic in the tag team matches, especially when everybody's clamped up, you've got a bunch of people using their specials, you're like, what the hell am I looking at? You don't know who's who. So anyways, moving on from the tag team matches and going into another multi-man mode, and that is the 3-way matches. I've seen a lot of people say that they don't like the 3-way matches. You know what, I actually kind of enjoyed the 3-way matches. Not as much as one-on-one. One-on-one is still my top mode in party mode, but 3-way matches were still pretty cool. Although you had some people in there that didn't really know what they were doing, focusing on one person and completely ignoring the other person, which is a mistake you shouldn't do. I'll talk about 3-way matches in future videos, but I did have some fun with them. Same with the Fatal 4-way matches. See, I'm talking as if this is a WWE match, because they call it Fatal 4-way, but it's not. The 4-way matches, also had fun with those as well. Really, my main gripe with the MultiMan matches is the tag team matches, because you're attached to your opponent. When it's a free-for-all though, and it's every man for himself, I'm all cool with that. Although, I will say the Fatal 4-way matches might be a bit less chaotic than the 3-way matches. Because unlike the 3-way matches where it's an uneven number of players, in the 4-way matches, you start off facing off or being face-to-face with one of the other players, while the 2 other players are also in a position where they're face-to-face. So, most of the time what ends up happening, at least in my experience, is you go ahead and fight it out with the guy you're face-to-face with at the very beginning, you beat him, and then you move on to the other player or other 2 players if they're still fighting it out, and from there you can turn it into a 3-way match if the other 2 players are still fighting it out and you want to get involved, or you can just wait it out until they finish fighting it out, and then it pretty much turns into a one-on-one situation. But that's not always the case. It's not always, kind of like a tournament setup where you just beat one guy and then you focus on the other guy. Sometimes it turns into pretty much a bigger 3-way match. And I find that happens mostly with the Helix Stage, because it's a tighter space and there's, these tubes that you've got to go around. So sometimes when you're constantly maneuvering on that stage, you'll find it easier to just retarget onto somebody else and focus on them instead. But you still might have, the guy that you were targeting previously still go after you, so then that's when it really gets chaotic. And then, when it comes to the 3-player free-for-alls, those are a lot more unpredictable when it comes to the result of the match, and also because of what happens throughout the match. Because there's 3 ways a 3-way can go in Arms. Number 1 is, it's a real free-for-all. Everybody goes at it with everybody in the match. You hit this guy, you hit that other guy, and they do the same. And then there's option B, where you get both of the guys going after you, or going after one person, 2-on-1 situations. That happens in the three-way matches as well, so you've got to be prepared for that. And then there's cases where people will just fight it out against each other, where it's basically just a one-on-one match. They'll focus on one person, and that one person also focuses just on them. And hey, the other person can just stand back, and just watch the show. And then it turns into a one-on-one match, and you've got an opponent that's got less health than you, and you're at full health because they ignored you the entire time. So, three-way matches, a lot more unpredictable than four-way matches, but I thought both were pretty fun. The real fun to me was the one-on-one matches, but mainly the one-on-one fights. When it comes to V-Ball, on the other hand, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I've seen a ton of people give it a lot of criticism. Personally, it wasn't too bad for me. I think it's nice as a change of pace after you played a bunch of fights, but I don't want to play, a bunch of volleyball matches. I want to mainly focus on the fights, and, that's why I'm playing Arms for the actual matches, not really the volleyball. But like I said, it adds a bit of variety to the game. And speaking of V-Ball matches, it's not just one-on-one, but you've also got 2-on-2 V-Ball matches. Those can be fun, but at the same time, sometimes it can get really annoying when your opponent either doesn't know that there's friendly fire, or he knows and he purposely goes ahead and punches you, knocking you down while you're trying to go ahead and hit the ball. We're supposed to help each other to win this, but you keep on knocking me down. Now, it might be an accident. Hopefully it's an accident, but it's still pretty annoying when it happens. But like I said, when it comes to V-Ball, it adds variety to the game, and variety is always good, giving you different things to do, a bunch of different options. And for those of you wondering, maybe you haven't played the TestPunch, V-Ball is always the same stage. It's on the same stage the entire time. I don't know if it's going to be different in the full game, I don't think so, but there's no stage difference, and I don't see why there would be, because the stage really doesn't come into play. So, then, speaking of stages, you got 3 stages on the TestPunch. You've got Springman stage, I don't know what it's called, I'm not gonna look it up. You've got Ninjara stage, and then you've got Helix Stage. Out of those 3, Springman is my favorite one. It's, the most basic stage, it's flat, you've got a couple, spots in the corners to jump onto, kind of like trampolines. But aside from that, it's a really basic stage, and I like it that way. It's kind of like in Smash Bros. I like the Final Destination stage because it's flat, it's basic, it's simple, and most of the time that's what I want when I'm playing a one-on-one match. I don't want, any obstacles interfering with the fights. And while I'm on the subject of obstacles, we come to the Helix stage, where there's a bunch of obstacles in the way. You've got all these tubes in the way that you can throw your opponent through. That's the cool part about it, but I don't want something there to put my opponent through in the first place. It's just, I don't want something in between me and my opponent when I'm trying to hit the opponent. So, Helix Stage for me was my least favorite stage of the TestPunch. And then we move on to Ninjara Stage. This one has a high ground. The opponent that starts at the top does have, I guess, a high ground advantage, or at least I thought so in the beginning, but you know what, after playing a bunch of matches on that stage, I didn't have any problems with it starting at the bottom. Still won matches, still actually won most of the matches, so I don't have any issues with it, and after playing a ton of matches on it, I don't really think that starting at the bottom is too much of a disadvantage, if any at all. But at the end of the day, Spring Stadium, yes, I just looked up the stage name for Springman. It's called Spring Stadium. Spring Stadium still remains my top stage, at least out of those 3. So, whatever the game modes, the stages, how about the actual fighters? From what you see in the footage right here, I think you can tell that I'm a big Ninjara player. I like Ninjara, and he's the character that I like the most, that I play as the most. I played 95% of the Global TestPunch with Ninjara. I've tried out Springman, I've tried out Master Mummy, but at the end, I felt, more comfortable playing as Ninjara. I like the speed, I like his dash. Springman is the balanced character that pretty much every, game has. They've got this balanced character, then they've got, speed character, a tank type of character, and that would be Master Mummy. I also played with Master Mummy, but he was a bit too slow for me. I like, the healing when I first read that. Hey, he can heal when you block. I thought that was cool. I tried him out. But then I was like, nah, he moves a bit too slow for me. I need somebody quicker. Springman's quicker, but he's a bit too, like, basic. Like, I like Ninjara. He's not the balanced character, but he's the speedy character, and I fare really well playing as him. And I think that's going to be the character that I play as mainly once the game also comes out. But also haven't tried the other characters. Looking at the other characters, King Cobra might be the character that I use once the main game comes out. But I also read that his dash is pretty slow, but he jumps pretty quick. So, once the main game comes out, I'm looking forward to trying out more characters, for a longer period of time. But as far as the test punch goes, I mainly tried out Springman, Master Mummy, Ninjara, and also Helix. But with Helix, I played a match or two, and I was like, nah, this character's not for me. But what's cool is they give you a nice selection of players in the test punch, and that's not even all the fighters in the full game. So in the full game, we'll actually get more fighters, and it's a nice mix of, different fighters with different speeds, different abilities. It's a cool mix, and every single one feels different and has a different special ability. You don't run into the issue where it's just pretty much skins, where most of the players feel the same but they look different. That's definitely not the case with Arms. Now, moving on to the controls, and surprisingly, I really like the motion controls. I'm not one that really likes games that are focused on motion controls, but I think Arms is the first one that I'm loving. The controls are great. I actually haven't played without motion controls at all in this game, so I can't give you a review as far as the rest of the controls. I've seen the control layout, what buttons do what, in the menu screen, and it seems a bit more complicated with a controller, but I've heard otherwise. But I'm comfortable using the motion controls, man. They're really good. You punch by punching, you grab by punching with both controllers at the same time, you guard or block by tilting the controllers towards each other, you change targets in a multi-man match by pressing the D-pad, you go ahead and jump by pressing the R button, you dash with the L button, and you press the triggers once you got your special or your rush. If you're apprehensive about the motion controls because of the Wii days of motion controls, don't be. The controls for the Switch, or the motion controls for the Switch, are really good, at least when it comes to Arms. And once the full game comes out, I don't think I'll be switching to the main controls, other than maybe to try it out. I know it's surprising that I haven't tried out, the normal controls instead of the motion controls. I will do so, but I've been cool with the motion controls, and since we've got a limited time in the global test punch, I really wanted to just get the matches in and not so much switch between controls. So that's pretty much it, man. Overall, I really like this game, and if you look back at when they first showed Arms in the Nintendo Switch presentation, a lot of people were skeptical. A lot of people were like, yo, is this another Wii boxing? But it's not. There's a lot more depth to it. It's a lot more fun. It's a great game, man, and I think Nintendo just got a great new IP. Splatoon was a great addition to their first-party lineup, and I think Arms will be the same. Now, there's still more to see, more to play. How's single player? How's the other modes? But, we didn't have access to those in the global test punch. But from what I played in the test punch, I enjoyed it. And plus, how can you not like the music in this game? At the end of the day, Arms is going to get a 7.8 out of 10 from me for too much fisting. No, I'm not actually going to rate it. This is the test punch. This is the beta. Who rates the beta? But just know, I like the beta, and I'm looking forward to purchasing the game once it comes out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, click the like button down below, and in the comment section, let me know your thoughts on Arms. See ya.